All right, so let's give it a few minutes to get going. That was my bath time reminder. Hey guys, we are going live. Please be patient.
So we are still going live as always, but we are going live on 3 different platforms. Hello, hello. If you want to see the full conversation, you are going to have to go to Ouse Now podcast backup on TikTok, or you're gonna have to go to Ouse Now YouTube page, or you're gonna have to go on Ouse Now podcast Facebook to actually see the whole conversation. Okay, so see the whole conversation, that's where you're gonna have to go. Oh, let's see. Trying to angle it a little bit better. Girl, I am coming all undone.
Please don't do that. Please don't.
When sucking it in fails. I don't know what this is going on right here. Thank y'all for
Okay.
joining. Thank you for joining. If you want to see the full podcast and you want to join the conversation, you are going to have to go over there to Ouse Now podcast backup page, our Ouse Now podcast FB page, or our Ouse Now podcast YouTube. We are going live on 3 different platforms. So this is only like our second time, right, sis? Our second time? Our second time?
Yes. And our first one
Our second
was
time.
what was that? Super Bowl Sunday. Just
Right. And we did that so intentionally, right? Because we was like, let's just test this thing out, right? But we did
absolutely.
good for Super Bowl Sunday, don't you think? I thought we did really good for Super Bowl Sunday.
Absolutely.
Right?
No
Yeah.
qualms. We did. Yes, I thought more people would be watching the Super Bowl, but hey, they was watching us too. Can't complain.
That's what's up. Hey, we doing things.
So please feel free to drop in the chat where you guys are watching from. We will not be pulling comments or anything like that in TikTok or any of the platforms. It might be a little bit difficult for us to kind of keep up. So please be patient with us when it comes to that because we don't have mods. It is literally just us.
Right. If I'm not responding to comments or if I'm not responding right away, again, I apologize. If you want us to get a quicker response, please go to Ouse Now podcast backup page on TikTok. Ouse
Honestly, I would
Now.
say probably YouTube. I'd
Go
say
try
YouTube
YouTube.
might be
So
the
just
closest.
direct everybody to the YouTube. Okay,
Yeah.
listen. Just go on to Ouse Now podcast YouTube and go on over there because that's where we can respond a little bit quicker and we can actually have a conversation versus I'm over here, over here, over here, over here, just trying to get everybody to head on over there to Ouse Now podcast YouTube channel. All right. All right.
Yeah. So yeah, that's going to be the best way to see like the full conversation. And we try to keep these a little bit on the lighter side, but you're kind of pushing us out of that zone, especially when it comes to these lives, which we don't do it regularly, but we're trying to get to
Mhm.
that point. But pushing us out of the short and sweet zone by something different, and that was your call, which is good call. So thank you. But I know you wanted to cover something closer to what we would cover on our typical podcast episode. Um, and you thought of this great suggestion, so let's do it.
Okay, so I have wanted to discuss something that was I never heard of this case until recently. Like I literally feel like I looked up on it. I feel like a lot of times I want to hear some good news and some positivity. And it's almost like a bittersweet type of a conversation, right?
Yep.
So Robert Johnson. Robert Johnson. I was scrolling through on our YouTube side platform, where I came upon his story, and he was incarcerated at the age of 16. He spent 29 years, or almost 29 years, incarcerated for something that he did not do and absolutely had nothing to do with. Um, so the sad part is that so much of his life has been spent incarcerated unjustly and unfairly. The good news is he is finally free and able to start his life and to be able to hug on his grandmother. I don't know if you saw the actual news clip. I was so touched by that clip, that story, his story. And so I wanted to talk about some good news, and I thought that was really good news. I don't know how long we're going to be on here discussing it, but I definitely was like, you know what, we should definitely touch on this, because even though it's a live episode and not our normal, like you said, a content episode or whatever, I was like, hey, yo, this is something that people should hear about and should know about if they already don't know about it. And if anybody has any views or comments and is familiar with the story, please feel free to chime in. Hey, baby. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Thank you for joining. If you want to join the full conversation, please go on over there to our Snap Podcast YouTube channel. Okay. Mwah, love you. Love you. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I would say what's interesting about his case is even his case, he wasn't just released from jail. His sentence was vacated, which that can go a couple of different ways. From the way I understood it is your sentence gets vacated, which means they can either allow you a release, which they did in his case, but that's not
Mhm.
necessarily always going to happen if your sentence is
Right.
vacated.
Right.
The interesting, I don't want to say sad, is that the prosecution team, they can appeal the vacation. I don't know how to say it. They can appeal that vacated sentence. They
Mhm.
could also retry him again, but that was my that moment when I read that, it really did give me pause, because I was like, well, what's the point of vacating the sentence? I mean, it's a good thing because it's allowing him
Yeah.
his freedom, but it will
Right.
also allow the prosecution to either appeal that, where he could, what if he loses the appeal, or they could retry him again, which I don't know. Like, it doesn't sit right with me, because I'm like, well, what? Either you appeal it with maybe I
Without
wonder if did he
prejudice.
have
Without
right?
prejudice or without, right? Is that what you're referring to? Yes.
Yeah, where they can't retry him again. Um, I think it's a wonderful thing. But that gave me pause, because that gives them the opportunity to try it again. And the
Mhm.
fact that he was a child, he was a minor when it happened, he's
Mhm.
always maintained his innocence, and they took his conviction, they convicted him off of word of mouth from somebody else who was
Mhm.
coerced. And
Mhm.
then the fact that under the administration that the police officers were working at the time, they were known for coercing confessions. So
So,
how do
so,
you
so
move
that,
forward from that? I wonder.
hmm, what I can say, the part about coercing confessions and how people are treated during interrogations, like that's nothing new. Like we have all heard, um, unfortunately, we've all heard stories when it comes to those interrogations, when it comes to those interviews, um, especially when it comes to children who
Mhm,
technically are not even supposed to be interviewed without a guardian or an attorney,
mhm,
right? So how that went, I don't know. And I don't want to speculate because I did not read the full article, and I don't remember the parts that I did read. I do not remember where that came up in it,
Mhm.
if it came up at all, right?
Mhm.
So that part is nothing new. But what I can say about him specifically is that he talks about it, and people that have witnessed his journey has said that he continuously kept such a good disposition. Now he will say that he lost his faith along the way, which I mean I can totally understand and totally relate to, right? Because sometimes things will happen along the way, and you'll be like, "What?" You know, like, "Hey,
Yeah.
Lord, what's going on here?" I'm not in agreement with what's going on here, right?
Yeah.
But they do say that he really did keep a very positive disposition, regardless of what was going on. And for him being so young, I'm happy he was awarded this opportunity to be released. And I really pray that they leave this man alone.
Me too. I hope that they
I really
decide
do.
not to. I think there was one more. They can drop the charge. I think it was they can drop the charges, appeal, or retry. I think those are the three things that the directions that they could take. And I hope that they do just drop the charges, because at this point he spent 29 years, and if you know that, not for nothing, but if the police force at the time was crooked, sorry, if you're coercing confessions from innocent people, that's crooked as F. No, crooked as a capital C. Then like they don't, in my head they wouldn't have any grounds to retry him because they didn't have enough evidence for it. And I know that people, for your kids, you have got to tell them that they are not allowed to speak to the police unless they have a parent or an
Yeah.
attorney. You have got to
Period.
instill
Period.
that in them. Now, we don't know the ages where someone would be considered an adult, or maybe that's not required, because some states will try younger people as adults depending on the crime. Um,
Right.
but nonetheless, do, like, this has to be a thing. I don't care where you come from, who you are, if you're green, white, whatever, yellow, Martian, you have got to instill in your kids that you cannot, like, do not speak to to a police officer without an attorney or you being present, because that's the
Right.
only way you can protect yourself. And it's
Right.
even more so important for our community now,
Right.
because when you think how many of us are left in our community, like, I'm just talking like numbers here, do you know what I'm saying?
Right. Right.
um so that was like what I said, were they able to interview him and coerce his friend's confession that led to his conviction? It's crazy.
Can you hear the kiddos?
Mm-mm.
They are having a good time out this door. I'm like,
Yeah.
gosh, I hope this is not coming through because, girl, it is
Just
sounding like a massacre out this door behind me. I'm like over here,
really,
like,
no, I don't hear them.
okay,
Well,
good.
here's something
Okay,
to note, you guys. For
okay.
our YouTube specifically, you are going to find different content on YouTube than you would see TikTok or what you're hearing on any of the podcast platforms. So please make sure
Mhm,
that you are
mhm.
catching us there, because you're going to
Yeah,
find more visual representation of who we are versus just the audio. Um, so quick tidbit, sorry guys, not relating to Mr. Johnson here. Um, do you think, well, to give some people perspective of what happened, like, this was in 1996. 1996, I was graduating high school.
mhm.
TikTok didn't exist. I'm not even sure Facebook existed. Laptops as we know it today did not exist. So to give you
Oh,
guys some perspective, when this child went to prison, he's now 45. When he went to prison, what we do now with technology, so now he's
mhm.
coming out and having to kind of readjust and saying, what the hell is this laptop here? what are these gaming systems? Think about
Oh,
Nintendo, Sega. Now you got PlayStation.
right.
Like I'm talking about it in those terms because to help people understand, like
Yeah.
that's how much time he
He
spent
spent.
in prison.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
shocking.
Not girl, cell phones. I don't even think like they were just now kind of like a thing, right? And they were kind of like pretty big, right?
We were still using beepers back then.
Girl,
For
knew
the
how to
regular folk.
knew how to look, you knew look, knew how to use the numbers to send little messages, right? Like I love
Hello,
you and hello and
for
girl,
something. LLO.
we,
Wait,
we are telling
770.
our age. Girl, we are
It was 48LL. Wait, 770. That's how you be
girl,
like, hello.
I don't even remember. That's crazy that you even remember. I just know it's a way to do it. I just can't remember what the hell it was. But
Don't judge me, you guys.
girl, I just things have really changed and um I'm pretty sure it's going to be such a big adjustment for him. Um I remember when I used to work in a facility like that when I used to be in corrections and I remember an older lady was being released and she said something to me and I was just kind of a little taken back and dumbfounded about it. But she was like, yeah, I heard that they have doors that open up. I don't know if you can hear that, but I heard that they
Yes.
have doors now that open up as you walk through. You don't even have to open the doors. And I was like, the things that we take for granted that we don't even pay attention to, right? Like it's nothing for us to go in a door and the doors just open up or the doors, you know what I'm trying to say? Like that's or you hit the button and it just opens. Like that's like so everyday normal for us to when someone else says it, it's like, oh wow. The things that we don't even realize are different for people like him that have been incarcerated for such a long period of time.
And it also
Um,
speak. I mean, not for nothing, but you or your family would have had to have enough money to appeal that to
right.
the original conviction. You would have to have had the resources to get a good attorney and not a public defender. How many times have
Right.
we heard of these scenarios where the public defender is like, just plead guilty, you'll be out in 2 to 3 years, just as a way to not have to go to a jury trial? Because a couple of things with a jury trial. Jury trials, you're supposed to be judged by a jury of your peers. Are we though? Who's going to be on that jury? Sometimes you're
Yeah.
forced to take a chance and say, well, if I go for a jury trial, or is it going to be, can I be hit with a worse sentence going jury, or can I just go ahead and take this L, regardless of how innocent or not innocent I am? You got to have money, you got to have resources for that. And I would hazard a guess his family didn't have those type of resources.
He unfortunately he is not the only case that we have heard of such things, right? Not just the interrogation or the questioning period, but even down to um the kind of push to plea, even though you may be innocent.
Hmm.
Um, because you figure when you weigh your odds, hey, if I plea, at least I have some chance of maybe a lighter or easier sentence
Hmm.
versus I don't plea and I fight it and I'm fighting it not with and not trying to say anything against any public defender. Please do not, I'm not saying that at all because there are some public defenders that do care, right? It's not just a case per se. And um, we have to also remember that their caseload,
Mm.
right? So we have to take all of those things into consideration. And I really feel, and I could be wrong, but sometimes I really feel they really do try to do what they feel at that time may be best. And sometimes those options are worse and worser,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Especially to someone that was his age, making that type of sound decision, or even his guardians, his grandmother, his parents. I think it was his grandmother that he was staying with at a time when this happened, but don't quote me on that. But like, how much, like you said earlier, how can they fight this?
I think
They
it's, I
they
mean,
can't.
there is a different, like, as much as everyone's like, oh, things are more equal. No, there is a different justice system for those with and those without.
You better know
And
it, girl. Come
girl,
on with it, girl. Careful,
there,
careful. But I got
yeah,
you. We be here. We be right here. So I get it. Yeah, girl.
there's hands down a different justice system for those with the haves and the haves nots. And if you are within the have nots category, it's
Mhm.
different for you.
Yep,
And
absolutely.
it's not just like you said earlier. This is not only something that's impacting the people of color. I know that there was this really big documentary about 10 years ago from the flicks Netflix, whatever. This is not an advertisement, but it's relative. Okay. It was called making a Emmer. Sorry, TikTok, I got it. Making
Okay.
a Emmer, and it was about a young man in Michigan, and I think that it was an uncle and a young man. The young man was convicted and went to jail. He would have been classified as having a disability. They coerced this confession out of him. He had no representation when they made this coercion. And if I'm not mistaken, now this was a few years ago, and he had the aptitude of someone in elementary school, but being 16 years old. So they completely took advantage of his disability, and the child went to jail. And even as he grew, and I've had to do aptitude tests. Sorry, you guys. They could see it, but he went to jail for years. So, like, it's not something that was only impacting our community, but our community is our focus. Sorry for anyone who has a problem with that, but that's what it is. But it happens to those who
Mm,
do not have the resources to be able to hire an attorney, a good one at that, or be able to
mm.
spring money for appeals. And even like victims advocacy or free lawyers, they cannot work on everyone's case. How
I
many
agree.
people, like, it's a limited resource if they're able to.
Right.
So it's disheartening that this man spent almost 30 years, and like where time stood still for him, and he's going to have to be now at 45 years old relearning how life is now.
Right. 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 It's um and I'm not gonna diminish him and his growth. That I don't want to do. But considering how young he was, and I think he said he had some credits towards his associate's degree, right? He was not able to fully complete his associate's degree, right? But even with that being said, even with the fact that congratulations to him, right, for not giving up, getting his GED, for pursuing higher education. despite his circumstances, despite where he was at. When I listened to him talk, he continuously said that he had to write letters and acts and repeatedly acts and acts and acts and acts and request and request and request just for his education. And I would think him coming into and he said that's clear across the board for anyone that has a lot of time is how he explained it. So if they have a long time to be incarcerated, you're less likely to be able to participate in certain programs. But in my mind, I would think how crazy and absurd is that, because he didn't come in when he was an adult.
Mm,
He came
mm-hmm.
in as a juvenile, as a 16-year-old. And me, I have a 16-year-old in my house, almost 16-year-old. Let me not let him get an education.
Well, I mean, it's not as
Let
if. Mm,
and I feel like it should still be a level of he's still, I don't care what crime he committed, I don't care what he did, he's still 16.
mhm.
But again, I give him so much credit and the fact that he pushed. He was like, "Well, I'm here. There's nothing I can do about it, but I'm gonna fight for my education."
Well, but
Right? Because he could have said
yeah,
the heck with it. He could have said the heck with it.
yeah, but also, it's not like, now I don't know what if there's privatized prisons in his state, but the
Mhm.
states that have privatized prisons, what why would they feel invested to get someone an education when they have free labor? Why? This is not. I'm not
Yeah.
going down a rabbit hole or
Okay.
conspiracy theory like that, but that's my question.
It's true.
What will be their investment to do that when they've got free labor? And that's what happens with privatized prisons. And I don't know if that's the case for his state,
Do,
but
but do they get to break the law? Because
but
isn't that still violating the law? The prison system, isn't that still violating the law? Because he's
I don't
still
know.
16. Under
I
state
don't know.
law, anybody under a certain age, right,
It would
has
depend on the
to.
state. Depends on the state.
Yeah,
I would say.
I guess. Yeah, that would make sense. I
And I
don't
mean,
know, but
hmm,
go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead, sis. Go ahead.
that's okay.
No, I was just like, um, again, I'm thankful that he pushed to get his education and to move forward again. To despite what has happened to him, his story is definitely, unfortunately, it's not unusual. And that's one of the things that he said. Like he could have made it even in that moment when it was really about him. He took the time to say, "Hey, there's still other people back there. There are still innocent people back there." He didn't he used that moment to not just express, his gratitude for him being released, but he also said, "Hey, in other words, there's still work to do. It's still some back there that are innocent." And I admire that as well. Like, hey, listen, because some people a certain they get in a certain situation or improve and forget about where they was or how it was for them, or other people that's still trying to pursue that same dream of, hey, someone listen, because I didn't do this. And I'm pretty sure it's even harder for those people that took plea deals.
Oh my gosh, because like you admitted
I
guilt.
know it
So
has to be.
how do you now you're trying to backstep, but then if you're like, we already pled guilty, so how do we know what's the truth here?
Right.
I'm not an attorney, but I would imagine that's how they would see it. But I
Right.
think they're also attorneys, like, you know what time it is. You know, sometimes people will take the plea just to make it because they think the plea is going to be a little bit easier when it comes to their overall sentence. But it is like, it's striking to me. I love the fact that he says what he wants to do is pursue an education in the legal fields, which will enable him to circle back and help people like him, which
That
is,
part.
somebody
That
else would be
part.
like, girl, not girl, because he's got, I don't think he's saying that, but I'm gonna go live it up
And if he
and
is,
dip it
if
and
he
do
is,
it.
hey, it is
Like,
what
no
it is.
judgment.
None
That's,
here.
hey, you've been incarcerated. I'm probably gonna be out there having some fun and dipping and doing and dancing, whatever young folk do these days. But his goal is to pursue,
Right.
get some sort of, you know, that's what he wants to pursue. I think that's amazing. I mean, I wouldn't
Yes.
blame him for being like, I'm out. I'm gonna go travel. I'm gonna get my passport, or whatever. um, but I do think that's pretty cool. But I also think that you're right. I think it happens more often than we think.
Mhm.
And if you don't have resources, it's a lot harder to combat things like this. That's what
Mhm.
I remember with the young man who was in Rikers. Remember, we talked about, we were talking about Robert Brooks in that episode, who
Mhm.
was treated so poorly from the other juvenile inmates in the Rikers juvenile prison. He was treated so poorly by other inmates, and then of course, that trickle down effect that eventually, and he was there for something minor. His parents couldn't afford
Mhm.
bail. He hadn't even been
Mhm.
charged yet, but he had been in jail for 2+ years, and he couldn't adjust to life outside of it, where he ultimately ended up taking his life. He had never been found guilty. And I'm sorry that his name is escaping me right now, but I'm old. I forget
You want
shit.
me to Google him? Do you want me to go Google him? I'll try to
There was
Google
a
him.
documentary. I'm trying to think. What was his name?
Was
Um,
he considered an adult at the time?
no, he was still considered juvenile. It was a documentary that Hove produced. What was his name? I'm gonna Google it. I'm sorry.
Don't worry, but I'm with you. You might be a little bit quicker than I am, girl. I can't type
Mm,
fast to save my
ah,
life,
Khalif
girl.
Browder.
Can you? I can't. I can't.
Khalif Browder.
Girl,
Girl, I
I'm
was
over here
like,
typing
what is
slow.
his
I'm
name?
over here typing all slow and shit. Like,
um,
wait a minute. Do I spell that right?
if you have never seen that documentary, that's one of the ones that I say to you guys who are watching. That is one of the things. There's a couple of things that I have watched over the years that I always say, like, it was enough for a lifetime. I will never be able to watch it again because it's too heartbreaking. The Khalif Browder story
Mm-hmm.
is that scenario where he had never even been charged or convicted of a crime. They eventually just released him, and he took his own life. Watch that documentary. Like, there's this parallel that they were both incarcerated, but this Mr. Robinson, he spent 30 years. So I hope that they are arming him with mental health services and a social worker. We don't know what incarceration looks like. Thank you, God. But what are they arming him with, and what services are they going to provide him with now that he spent 30 years incarcerated? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
He's going to need some mental health services, not for nothing, but that's a different kind of
Mhm.
life in there. And now you're going to be living here. So
Mhm.
how does one adjust?
I think I'm gonna end this one. Go ahead.
No. So that's the question I asked. Like, what services are they going to provide him now that
Mhm.
he was unjustly convicted of this crime, without not enough evidence to for this conviction? What are they going to
Right.
offer him? Like, it's when we record our episodes, we always, when there's things like this that happen, we always say, where's the holistic approach? You need to look at everything, not this just one singular thing when it comes to
Mhm.
whatever. But I question what are they offering him in services now that he spent half of his life, a quarter of his, well, I can't count, 75% of his life incarcerated. Like, what does that look like? If you guys are know of anyone who has spent that amount of time incarcerated and they are now out, I would love for you guys to kind of weigh in the comments if you know if this. Hey, Lopi. Oh,
Hey,
you're
who's
watching on
this?
Facebook. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Um, if you are, comment so we know. Like, we would love for you guys to weigh in on this topic. How you doing? Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate all the support that
Me
you give
too.
us for our podcast and then also our individual projects. So thank you. We appreciate you.
Yes, she's definitely one of our day ones,
Hmm.
right? Day
Yeah.
one.
um,
Um,
yeah. Mm.
try, Lopi, chime in the comments. Um, about the topic today. She said I'm good. Good, good. Yeah, for real. We love you. Girl, we love you. Um,
Yes.
but if you have any comments, please, or if you have anything you would like to add, go ahead and drop it in the comments. Let us know where you are, where you're streaming from. Drop that in the comments. If we do not respond to you right away, please forgive us. We are on three different platforms and it's hard to keep up. Okay.
Yeah.
But thank you
And
for joining.
remember,
Thank you.
oh,
Aw.
remember though, for Facebook and YouTube, the live stays. So like TikTok, it just disappears. But with Facebook and YouTube, you'll still be able to view that live once we concluded for today.
Okay.
I hate to say that those are probably the two better platforms. If you miss it, while it's happening, you can watch
Mhm.
it, do replays, if you will, on those two. Yeah. Thank you, friend. We appreciate you.
For real. Um, again, this situation right here, uh, like I said, it's bittersweet. It's sad that he had to spend so much of his life, his adolescence. He grew up in in that environment. That's where he grew up at. Um, because he was still. Some people get offended when I say that, but 16, yo, you're still a baby. You're just a baby.
Yeah.
It's just sad. It's sad. I mean, it's a beautiful thing that like I said, that he's out and that his mission is to um help others,
Yeah. Yeah.
so thank God for that. And I thank God to the people that heard him and took him serious. Because that's a thing, right? That's such a thing. I know, I guess I'm not gonna say I know. I'm gonna say I can imagine or speculate that everybody there say they innocent, right? So very, I mean, in between you might people they be like, yeah, I did what I did,
Like,
right? I did it.
and I did it and I needed to and I wanted to. I'm sure there's people in there
And I meant that shit when I did it.
with my whole chest.
With chest out, chin up, and I did. Um, but but I'm pretty sure that it may be hard for them to weed out. Um, but 16, you know nothing else. You still a baby. Amen. Amen. That's exactly how I feel, Hilda. I feel just like that. I feel like at that age, you are still a baby, and no matter how much you think you know, you really don't know. I was gonna curse, but you know, and whoever interrogated him knew that as well. That is really taking advantage
Hmm.
because a 16-year-old mental capacity versus um, an investigator. I don't know how old they were. It doesn't matter. They're adults.
Hmm.
Come on now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and things that I read somewhere, or maybe I heard in passing, that a lot of, like, as
man.
adolescents going into being a teenager into young adults, even your brain doesn't mature until I think you're in your early 20s, like 24-ish. So when
Right.
you take that into perspective, like the officers and stuff, they knew what time it is. They know, and they took full advantage of the fact that he was 16 and his
Right.
friend was 16, and that they didn't know enough to say, a I need an attorney or my parent. Like, how many it's like the talk. Like, that conversation needs to be part of the talk. You don't know
Mhm.
what I'm talking about? Look it up. But as
Yeah.
Black
I mean,
women,
just
as
like,
mothers to Black children, we know what the talk is.
amen.
That has to be
Come on
part of
now.
that talk.
Okay. Facts. Facts. And she said, Hilda put in the comments, we all know there are a lot of innocent people in prison. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And that's one of the things that this young man said. He had his life taken away from him.
Yeah.
And that's definitely one of the things that he said. Um I was going to say something. It kind of reminds me, maybe not on that scale, and it's a girl just thinking about the central
Mm. Hmm.
girl, help me here.
Okay. I was
The
like,
cen-
no, I don't want the Central Park Five.
that's it. That's it. Right? Um, these are things that has happened more often than not, and it's sad. And it's sad. I'm not supposed to be, girl. We just talked about that. I don't know if you missed that part, but we definitely talked about that. Kids are not supposed to be questioned without someone to represent him. But at 16, they want to say they are adults, depending on the crime. This is true, but either way, even at 16, regardless of the crime, they are not supposed to be questioned without a guardian or an attorney. That is true. We talked about that. We literally talked about that when we in the beginning part of the podcast. Thank you for joining. Hey nephew, I see you. Thank you. Thank you for joining. Please, if you are in this live, if you're watching me now, please go ahead to Out Now Podcast, YouTube, and join the conversation. We also are streaming live on FB and live on Out Now Podcast Backup TikTok page, okay? And here, but you really can't see the whole conversation. Like, we really want you to see the whole conversation. Go over there. So go on over there to Out Now Podcast YouTube, okay? All right. Just got the number one gifters bag. Oh, look at that. Shut up. Oh, y'all are awesome. I probably should have. Thank y'all. Mwah, thank you. Thank you. Okay. I'm sorry. I had a moment.
So I wonder if, like, I really hope so. Lopi, you may have missed this part, but like, he wasn't just released. Like, his sentence was vacated, which ultimately means that with the vacating of a sentence, they can either release him or they can retain them till their next court date, and he will have to be in court next month, where they will come to a decision if they want to drop the charges, appeal the vacating of the sentence, and or retrial him. So it's unfortunate that like he didn't have the resources, or his family didn't have the resources to appeal it and let the process work that way, because he would have had more finality to his situation. So like even though he's free, there is still this unknown of what's going to happen next, which I think frankly is unfair. When they vacated the sentence, they could have just said, we're going to vacate this sentence and we do not plan when we're going to drop the charges or
Right.
whatever. So he
Mhm.
knows how to move in life, because how can you make plans for your life and towards your goals if you don't really, if there's this thing that's still hanging over your head? And I think it's
Um,
next month.
I agree with that. I'm gonna read one I'm gonna read her last comment that she made, and then I'm gonna get back to what you just said. True, but they always find a way to try and make it legit, and people that don't know any better will let it happen. Fact. They don't know no better. They don't even realize that their rights are being violated, or that they have rights, certain rights. They don't even know that they have those certain rights. Like I'm pretty sure at 16 years old, he didn't know, hey, I have the right to have an attorney. I have the right to have my parent here. Oh my God, girl, that is so embarrassing. My old ass. That's beside the point. My alarm is going off again about my
Oh,
schedule.
oh, oh no, not that
Dateline.
one.
Yes, girl. It's the sun. Anyway.
Not the dateline.
Hey, hey, shh. Um, there was something that I was going to say before I read her comment, and maybe it'll come back to me. You know my old age, psh, girl.
Girl, I know. I couldn't even remember Mr. Browder's name. I was like, what his name? But I will say, when I was watching that documentary, like there was this, like I didn't know his story before watching it. And then I was like, why are they talking about him in the past tense? I Googled it and started bawling. I
Boohooing.
was like,
Yeah.
what? Um, but I'm happy that Mr. Johnson had the fortitude to be like, no, this is my situation. I'm gonna stick it out and do what I can with what I have. And he
Right.
had the strength, even from 16 to where he is now. Like he remained strong to be able to say, nope,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna keep it going. Yeah,
Yeah, I agree. Um, I'm so thankful. Like in the sea of everything else that's going on, right? Everything that's going on.
mhm.
I was like, it feels good to hear something good that has happened. Again, it's a bittersweet because it's unfortunate that he spent his childhood, his adolescence, the majority of his growth in a prison, and undeservingly. But the
Yeah.
fact that the 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 fact that he is now free. That's what I was going to say. When you said, considering his release was kind of conditional, I guess is how we're saying it. Even though it's conditional, I'm sure he's going to know and cherish and appreciate. He's going to know how to move. If you can come out of that, if you can go into that at 16 and keep that fight and be released, he's going to know what to do. I have no doubt in my mind. There may still be a part of him, of course, that will still be like, it's not completely over, but he has that fight. He has it, and I really do believe that um, he's going to live his life. He has not let that stop him to this point, and I don't think he's going to let it at all.
I hope
I
so.
don't think. I hope not, and that's definitely what we're gonna pray for him.
Mm,
Um, I agree. Those investigators are a bunch of criminals. When it comes to black people, they will lie. Hell,
They
they
will
will
make
make you
you
lie on yourself.
they will make you doubt your own sanity. Like, did that really happen? No,
Oh,
that must have happened.
wait, I think that did happen. No. Yes. I don't even know no more. I'm glad the young man is out and pray it works out for him. Amen. Exactly. Exactly. But what I was gonna say, and don't shoot me for saying this, it's young. It does happen more to people of color than any other nationality, but I really have heard some other cases where it was some really young people um that have
Yeah.
really been taken advantage of. And not just um young people of color, like young people that have really been taken advantage of. And not just young people, um let's talk about mental capacity, because there are some people that are of age, of legal age, but they definitely have a disability. They definitely, their mind does not think like the average person their age, the average adult their age, which you did talk about, because you said something about a similar story earlier when we first started
Yeah.
talking about the topic. So just because it's a number on that, it doesn't mean they on that level.
Or
And
even
that's another thing that
maturity.
has to be right. So that's
Right.
definitely another thing that has to be taken into consideration. Because you could
Right.
be 35 and your mental capacity not be of a 35-year-old.
I wonder. I always not question, but how like when we were interviewing Sharonda Friday night, and the police officer that was working on her case, she had to say something to him to get him to be like to actually do something. And I can't
Right.
imagine how, and I won't repeat what she said. Y'all just gonna have to watch the episode. But there was one thing she said to him that made like a clicked for him to say, "Okay, let me try to do better." But think about how many times I'm grateful. Let me just preface it by saying grateful. I'm grateful. Think how many times people encounter the police who they give bare minimum. Like why would I have to say, if this was
Yeah.
your so and so, if this was your family, what would you do? What would you tell them to do? Or as a police officer or investigator detective, if this was your family member, what would you do? Why do you have to say things like that to get them to really do their jobs? Like, I understand that they may have a caseload that may
I'm
not.
so sorry.
mm, I understand they may have a caseload that.
Can I read that one? I have
Sure.
to read the comment. Yes, it happens. I didn't mean to cut you off, sis. I'm so sorry,
Uh-huh.
but it tickled me. It said, yes, it does. It happens to other races. That means they don't have money, so they're considered black. I do feel like people of color and white tea people or other ethnicities that do not have money, they group us together, right? Because
Yeah.
a lot of times it's really not about, and we've seen this, oh, especially lately, it's not even about ethnicity, race. It's about what? Social class.
Money.
Social class.
Um, but that's the thing. Like, if a detective was talking to someone who had the have versus the
Yep, yep,
have
yep, yep.
not, who are they going to be more
Hmm.
proactive? And that's the part that I'm saying. Like, if it's your family member, what would you tell them? Why does
Right,
someone have to say that to you to get you to wake up and actually do your job? Like, I do understand that maybe they have an unrealistic caseload. That's not our fault, but you should still be doing your job. Do your due
right,
diligence on every case. And if you
right,
cannot do that, you are in the wrong profession. You
right,
do not belong in that job because you are not doing the right thing. And your job
right.
calls for doing the right thing
The right thing. That's
at all times.
right. At all times. You're held to a higher standard, period.
But we all
Always.
know how these people
First,
roll because not all. Sorry.
not all. Right.
Okay, we know your wife was she was aces, she did her but not all have that,
Right.
and not all police officers have that same standard, hold themselves to the same accountability.
Right.
Because the ones I've known,
Right.
they some lying, cheating mother effers. Just saying. Anyway, another topic, people. Another topic. Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
you said that shit. You said that shit with conviction.
I was serious because it's true. The ones
I'm
I know, except for one,
with your whole
her
with your
brother's
whole
wife,
shit. With your whole shit.
lying and cheating. It could be.
No,
Yeah.
it could just be. It's just meaningless. No, I
Okay.
don't believe it's about caseload. I believe it's just meaningness. Oh, that's profound.
Mhm.
That's profound.
Some people are like that.
Wow.
I think
Yeah.
some, depending on what state you're in, some of these people are just in it for the pension. They're just trying to make it to the day that they can retire.
Period.
But that's not what your community needs.
No. Yeah.
Sorry. I'm not
No.
anti-police. I'm just anti-police that don't do a good job.
I'm not.
And the racist ones. Those, those. I'm sorry. We're not going down the rabbit hole, I promise. We're not
I'm
going to go
not
down that rabbit hole.
me. We got you, girl. I got you. Meanness. Got you.
That's it. There you go.
That slow ass. And I ain't got no glasses. I have no damn excuse.
Miss Lopi, you should have put that in caps. Should put
Girl,
it in capital letters.
she had to come. She had to come back and break that shit down. No, that's not what I meant.
Meanness. That's how she meant it. Miss Lopi, you should have put some caps in it. Meanness.
You know
That's
me,
real.
like you know me, girl. Come on. Yeah.
It's nice to
A
be able
real
to talk about something good, ain't it? Versus,
It is. It is. I feel like we've with I feel like that's why we chose a lot of the most recent topics is because we wanted to talk about some positivity. We wanted to talk about something to brighten um to brighten the mood or let you or give you or give hope, right? With everything that's going on right now, look, hey, there's a chance. There's hope here. It might it might have took oh, oh, that's so sad. It might have took him a while to get there, but praise God, he got there. He never gave up. His family never gave up. And so it's a beautiful thing. It's sad, but it's the outcome.
mhm.
You
Yeah,
know,
definitely good
we're
news.
right. We're
We,
definitely able to talk about it today from such a positive place, right? Yeah. Yes. I already know what you about to text me. Yes.
I'm sending you a message.
Yes. I know you feel me. Look, I was waiting because I know. Oh yeah, yeah. I'm in agreement. I ain't even gotta read it. Yes.
All right, we good. So you guys, now you'll see some videos from us in the next coming week about what's to come for Al's podcast. So stay tuned. We don't want to talk about it on here. But there's some things coming soon. So make sure you're staying tuned to our YouTube, definitely our TikTok. Those two I want to say we're probably more active on. And then of course Facebook and all the socials, okay, people, all the socials. But stay tuned on them so you can keep updated about what's happening because we have some updates about episodes that are slated to come. Um, but we are really happy to be able to come on a live with some good news versus with everything that's happening right now. Oh, hang on. Ooh,
I want to know
really?
what.
So, Miss Lopi, she was just saying how y'all. I've been in situations with the police, so I know how dirty they can be. Yeah, same,
Yeah,
same. I don't know.
yeah.
Sorry, that's my bedtime reminder, but not for me, not mine. I'm not the old ass that needs to go to bed at 7 o'clock.
And then at least your old ass ain't getting reminders about Dateline. How about that? There you have it.
um, let me just tell Q real quick that he needs to.
Yeah, I definitely have to get my kiddos ready for
Yeah.
school tomorrow. I gotta give your nephew a nice little shape up. He doesn't want a full haircut, but he wants me to give him a little shape up. So
Oh,
I got my little clippers and my little tapers ready to
you
go.
ready? You know, have you done it before?
Yeah, it's been a while, but
Oh,
I used to
okay.
my older kids, girl, please. Now, they really didn't like when I used to give them haircuts because I only knew the one cut. I don't care. I only knew the regular kind of cut low and tape it up, and that's all I knew. I didn't know all of that other stuff. So, and I still don't know all of that other stuff, but I'm gonna take a stab at it. If it gets too bad, I'm just gonna go ahead and take it all the way low. I'm just gonna do
I,
what I gotta do.
I have
What,
left it
girl?
alone.
What? Why?
One
I'm looking
time
in the
I tried.
comments. What?
Girl, no. I tried one time to cut the boy's hair, and he had a ball so bad. That's why I was laughing. I'm just
Baby,
envisioning his bust.
did you cut it?
I'm
Wait,
so.
did you cut it with the? How did you cut it? With what? What'd you cut it with? I'm so
I
nosy.
had the
You didn't
guard
have.
on. The
I
guard,
was just
but the
about to ask
guard
that.
fell
What did you cut?
off. The guard fell off, and it was like zip. He had like the triangle ball spot, and I couldn't even cover it up. I was like, I'll just go to a professional. I'll let your daddy do it.
Oh wow.
And it was kind of, it was by that flat part.
She said. She said. Thanks, girl. Cause I'm not gonna lie. I think the very first time and unfortunately it was Manny. The very first one, right? I was like, hey, let's do it. And I remember my ex-husband, we weren't married at the time, right? Um, but I remember he was like, oh no. It was like, girl, it was like a state of emergency. It was like, oh hell no.
And it's not like you could put a braid to cover it. So like,
He went and found him a barbershop. He was like, "Oh no, we gotta fix this foolish. Oh, what the hell did you do to this out here?"
oh, I'm so sorry, but I had the vision
But
in front of my
it was
head of
all up
it.
after that, though. I got it after that. I got it after that. I promise you. But they just didn't want me to do it because I only knew how to take it low, and they didn't
Mm,
want it low. They wanted, whatever. Um, they wanted all the stuff
young
that.
folks is doing all the what the
Right.
young people
And I didn't know
are.
how to do none of that. I just knew the simple. Just cut it short and tape it up and give it a nice tape line and keep it moving.
Oh man. But sorry guys, we did our occasional squirrel, and we went down a different path. But occasionally, if you listen to us long enough, you know that occasionally we will kind of digress a little bit. But thank you so much, everyone who has stuck with us. Of course, from day one, that would be you, Miss Lopi. You are one of our day ones. And thank you for watching this live, which you are watching on YouTube, Facebook, and on our TikTok backup page. So thank you for your support. We appreciate you.
Thank you so much. As always, we appreciate you joining. We need the feedback, and we are looking for guests.
Mhm,
And stay
mhm.
tuned for more episodes. All right. Thank you. Y'all have a good night. Have a
Bye,
good night,
guys.
good
Have a
day,
good
good
one.
morning, wherever you are. Thank you so much.